Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to review some of the options in Excel in order to pretty up your information for printing. Now many times when you're working in Excel you're working strictly on the computer, and that's fine, but there are times where you'll want to copy these things into another document or simply print them out. Print them out as part of a report, etc. So let's start by going to File, Print, and seeing what it's going to look like when it prints. Well, it's not terribly bad. I could really use some kind of header up here to identify the information, but my labels are there. Let me go to the next page. Oh, my column labels don't really follow through to the next page, so that's a little bit of a problem. And it seems like I have more information here, and I do. That's because the last column on the right, that yearly average, didn't fit on the width of the page, and so it's going to print a third and a fourth page to accommodate that information. I'm going to hit escape and see if there's something I can do about it. Notice the dashed line running between columns F and G. That's showing you where the page ends, where there's going to be a print break. And if I were to scroll down, I would find a horizontal line. So Joe King is going to be the last one to fit on the first page, and then Mary Lee is going to start the second page. Now, this horizontal line is very often unavoidable when you have a lot of data, but if I just had one thing or two things on the next line, I might consider adjusting my font size if that was reasonable. And I could do that simply by selecting all, that's Control A. And even if I didn't want to go down to a 10, I could try a half size of like a 10.5. That would make very little difference in the visual layout of the page, but might squeeze one line or so on. Now, in addition to changing the font size, you may have to come in, select the rows, and select ever so slightly the line height. So that'll definitely have an impact on how much can fit on a page. But how do we get that header row to repeat? And you'll find most of these settings under Page Layout. So the first thing that I can do is I can pick Print Titles. And rows to repeat at the top is the option I'm looking for. And I'll simply select row 1. So it's going to be $1:1:1. I can hit Enter, OK. And now, when I go to print, you notice that it's not going to repeat in the document itself. I can go all the way down to the bottom and I won't see that. But if I do say Control P, when I go to my second page, the labels appear. Now that hasn't solved my problem of the page not being wide enough, but that looks like a fairly simple solution to me. It looks like these columns are wider than they need to be. I'll double click on this one. Nope, yeah, that's plenty. That's wide enough for the widest name, so I'll give it a little extra room. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll make first and last name equal width just by selecting them both and adjusting them. But I certainly don't need all this room over here for the marking period averages, etc. So let's bring that down a little bit. And maybe bring the yearly average down a little bit. And you can see we're well now within the page. We have an entire other column we could use if we wanted to. And as a matter of fact, if that's the case, I can adjust those. There we go. So I'm using most of the page at this point. Let's confirm that by attempting to print. Yearly average is now on. And my column headings are in place. Okay, what else can I do with this? If I wanted to change the orientation, so I had a lot of data going across, I could switch it to landscape. Nothing will happen in this view, but when you go to print, you can see that I could have included many more columns, although I won't get as many rows on a page. So that's one possible solution. You can adjust your margins here. So right now the top margin is 3/4 of an inch, the bottom is 3/4, and the left and right are 0.7, but you can adjust that here. So I can say, well, you know, I've got a lot of room. I'd like the top and bottom to be an inch, and you know what? I'll just get in there and type. I'd like the left and right to be an inch as well. So I'd like it to be a very comfortable view. See what happened there? Okay, a lot more room around the edges, especially if I was in this horizontal mode. That would be fine. If I was not, if I was in a portrait mode, yep, still fits. I get my wide margins and I still get my yearly average in here, so I'm down to 2 pages, which is great. Okay, some other basic options for printing. Perhaps these people are in different classes, and perhaps I have them sorted by classes, and I only want those people to print. So it's the people from row 1 through 18 that I want to print. Well, while they're selected, I can simply say that is the print area. So select that as a print area. And now when I go to print, you can see even though I'm on active sheets, even though I'm picking the entire sheet, only that area is going to print. Now, if I don't want that, I simply come back in there and I clear the print area. So now printing will show me the entire sheet. An alternate method to doing that, and I think perhaps easier, instead of setting a print area, because print area is kind of a legacy thing. I guess it's been around for a while, but if this is an area you want to print consistently or multiple times, I guess setting a print area would be good. But otherwise, you can select this, and then without actually setting the print area, go to print and pick selection, and that will allow you to print just those same rows. Now you may want to add some basic documentation to this in the way of putting a header and a footer on it with a little bit of information. That's also located under print titles, and there's a header and footer tab in there. So I can say I'd like a custom header, please, and in the center section I would like to put my Excel project. And over here in the right section, I would like to add the date. So the date that I'm doing this. So I'll say OK. Now I will go into footer options, and you can see there's page numbers and there's some predetermined text here. But I'm just going to pick page 1 of question mark. And what that will do is at the bottom of the page, it will say page 1 of 3, and then page 2 of 3, and page 3 of 3 if there happen to be 3 pages. There are some other options here for where you can put different headers and footers on odd and even pages, or you can have a different first page. But for right now, I'll just say OK. And I'm going to go to print. And you notice something odd happens. I only have this one single cell here, and that's because it remembers that I was on print selection, and currently I'm only selected on one cell. So I want to go to the active sheets, and that's much better. It gives me my title, my date over on the right, page 1 of 2, page 2 of 2, and I would be just about ready to print at this point. Except I'd like to take a look at one more option. So let me escape and say that this data represents 4 different classes, and I'd like to see one class on a page. So we said that the end of the page was with Mary over here at 18. So I'm going to insert, I'm going to click on one of the cells in 18, and I'm going to insert a page break there. And then let's say Roger is the last one, so I'll insert a page break after 34. You notice there's a very faint difference in the line here. You can see it, but you've really got to be looking for it. And then it goes up to 61, so let's say 47. These are small classes. And we'll say insert a break there. So now when I go to print, you can see that my first set of data is here, my second set on the second page, my third set of data on the third page, my fourth set on the fourth page, and you can see page 4 of 4. So it's recalibrated itself to print on 4 different pages according to my breaks. If you want to remove breaks, you have a couple of options. I could come back to this cell where I set it, and I could say remove page break, or I could just say reset all page breaks, and then the page will be back to the normal page break. It'll fit as much as it can onto the page and then start a new page when there's no more room. Okay, I think that covers the basics of formatting for print. You obviously can use your other formatting features such as background colors and borders and font sizes and colors, etc. Those we've all covered in previous videos, but these are the settings under page layout that will allow you to format a document well for print.